Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Slaughter Talk. My name is Wilfred, and I am the host of the show. First off, a little bit about me. I live in the United States. I'm in my mid-30s. I have a wife and 2 kids. I have followed and played soccer my whole life. One of my best friends and someone I have known since the 3rd grade is the person who is mostly responsible for my love for Liverpool. He is a Liverpool supporter and the only friend I had growing up that was also interested in the sport. Having someone you know to share a common interest with made following Liverpool an easy thing. The more I invested into Liverpool, the more I got hooked. Looking back to June 1st, 2019, the day Liverpool won their 6th Champions League is a day I will never forget. I was unable to watch the match that day because I was back in my hometown as we were burying my grandparents. My grandpa had passed away about 5 years prior, but his ashes were kept with my grandma until she had passed, so this day was a little bittersweet. About 6 weeks later, I was able to attend my first Liverpool match with my friend mentioned a few minutes ago, while Liverpool was on their USA preseason tour at Notre Dame University in South Bend, Indiana, against Borussia Dortmund. Sadly, Liverpool lost the match, but it was a nice way to kick off the new season, given the emotions I had with how the previous season had ended. Alright, enough about the past. Let's look forward to the now and why I'm doing this podcast. Outside of my family and my job, following all things Liverpool is where most of my time is spent. I feel like I know the club inside and out, from watching all the press conferences to the LFC training videos, following the players on social media, reading all the articles on X or The Athletic, watching the matches. I have so much time and energy dedicated towards the club that I wanted to put that knowledge to life in some way possible. I am not naive to the fact that I am American, podcasting about a European club in a very saturated podcast market. There's a very good chance that this will gain no traction, and I am okay with that. I am just looking forward to turning my passion for something into a project. This upcoming season, my family and I will be taking our first trip to the UK, and while we are there, we are planning on attending 2 Liverpool matches. I'm excited to see how my podcasting journey and viewpoints evolve after experiencing Liverpool and Anfield. Alright, so what do I plan on covering in my podcast? My plan for the off-season episodes, while knowing I'll need to be agile along the way, will be to focus on the new head coach, the Euro and Copa tournaments, the current roster, while staying away from the lovely transfer rumor mill, the USA preseason tour, and post-match opinions. I think it's important to call out why I am staying away from the whole transfer rumor mill. Every day you can feel an entire show surrounding linked players. Anyone who is remotely a fan of the sport can tell you how awful this time of the year is when every player is being linked with every club by multiple sources, saying contradicting statements, all while X accounts dedicate their purpose of finger punching anything they hear, and it can get exhausting. Fan bases begin to flood the space with hype videos, player breakdowns, any story or previous tweets to discredit or drag rivals players through the mud, comparing the linked players to current and future signings at other players from other clubs, giving praise or hate towards players, clubs, owners, and even other ex-users. In my opinion, the world has enough hate and negativity in it. This sport should unite people, ally or rival, as a chance to share a common ground and promote some healthy banter. Fans create the atmosphere and for the most part remain consistent in an ever-changing world of players, coaches, and owners, but leave the hate out of the beautiful game, which is why I want to keep any rumor stuff out. Alright, with that being said, let's dive into the name of the show, Slaughter Talk. The name has a few meanings behind it. At first glance, I know most fans should be able to connect the dots with the new head coach, Arne Slot. Because this is a new show and a new era at Liverpool, I wanted to be able to incorporate the new head coach's name, Slot, into the title. The second meaning behind Slaughter Talk involves Diogo Jota. The remaining time that I have that is not dedicated toward family, work, and Liverpool involves video games. During the COVID lockdown, the Premier League had a giant FIFA tournament which Jota ended up beating Trent Alexander-Arnold on in the finals. From that moment, I started following Jota with his gaming. For those of you who don't know, Jota started his own esports team called Diogo Jota Esports and has since invested and rebranded his sports team to be called Luna Galaxy. Fast forward, Jota then transfers to Liverpool, and I have since loved watching his game. Jota has a fantastic work rate. He's a clinical finisher who can score with both feet, out-jump people to score with his head, tracks back to wins the ball back, and make barreling runs for the defenses to bring excitement to the pitch. So how exactly does Jota tie into Slaughter? Well, one of the Liverpool-based independent outlets called Hat Scarf for a Badge coined a shirt about Jota as Jota the Slaughter. The great Jamie Carragher has also tweeted that phrase out after a Jota goal. So Slaughter was a nice way to blend the new head coach with my favorite player on the roster. Moving on, I want to touch base on Arne Slot's opening press conference with the media. I will be the first person to say I did not follow Slot during his time at Feyenoord, and the only reason I had a hint of who he was involved the links with him in Tottenham during their recent coaching carousel. The opening question of the press conference asked Slot to describe himself as Klopp mentioned he was the normal one. And the reason I feel like Slot understands the task at hand with being the Liverpool head coach is that he mentioned it's not what I tell you now, it's more important for what you do for the club when I am done. This to me shows that he does not come in with an ego like we saw with Ten Hag when he came to Manchester United and said all eras must come to an end in reference to Klopp and Pep Guardiola's reign near the top of the Premier League. Coming to a club like Liverpool, in my opinion, you must be able to command the room, but you cannot do so with arrogance if you want to win over the fans, win over the team, and ultimately win the games. You must understand the players, understand the traditions, and show that you're there for the right reasons. And I feel Slot dismissing the build-up between the rivalry of Manchester City and Liverpool, like Klopp had with Pep, is a prime example of that. Yes, there are some games that are super important and have a massive build-up to them, but ultimately those games have not been the title deciders. It's the type of matches where you draw against Luton on the road that are the most impactful when looking at the points that were dropped. Those are the matches where you need to go in expecting to get full 3 points and do so. Every match matters, and I like that he is not overlooking the importance of each match. Later in the press conference, Slot was asked about being a new voice in the locker room after Klopp, and he mentioned the importance of getting to know the players on an individual level as well as the team level, and it's the same regardless of if you're following Klopp's footsteps or not. To me, he understands that he needs to be there for the players and be the voice that they need to hear. As a new head coach for Liverpool this season, I'm sure he would love to have everyone back as soon as possible, but it speaks volumes when he shows his support for the international players and hoping they continue to stay away as they are advancing in their respective competitions. Continuing on, one of the best parts about watching Liverpool under Klopp was how he had his team play. It was an aggressive, attack-minded system. When Liverpool played teams who wanted to press back or play on the front foot, Liverpool under Klopp usually performed very well. It was the teams who would hunker down and look for the counter where Liverpool would often have trouble breaking them down and creating chances. Liverpool's setup and tactics often seemed a bit rigid. You knew Salah would be along the right with Trent somewhere near, Sadio, Jota, or Diaz along the left with Robertson near, and a striker in the middle with all 5 of them along the back line not facing the goal. There was not a ton of movement that would take place. The meme of the stick figure standing around poking something and captioned, "Do something," would often come to mind while watching all the stagnant positionings against the low block. To me, Arsenal under Arteta are one of the best in these situations. The movement with Odegaard and Saka on the right always creates space, and then you sprinkle in Ben White on the overlap, causing the back line to drop a bit deeper, gives Saka the opportunity to cut inside for the shot, or throw across to the back post where you can normally find Trossard or Martinelli depending on who is out there. Once Arsenal get into that flow and start playing with confidence and score first, you know they're going to be beating that back line like a drum. All that to say, Slot gets asked about the formation and how Liverpool have been a customary 4-3-3, and if he'll continue to do the 4-3-3 or play the 4-2-3-1 like he did at Feyenoord. In that comment, he said makes him sad because his players play with freedom when they have the ball. So similar to the old Dutch total football mindset implemented by Johan Cruyff, this mindset gives me hope that against the low block clubs, Liverpool will be able to take a page out of the play style I previously mentioned with Arsenal and their movement to create chances. The next statement I make very easily could be proven wrong in the next minutes or days, but most of the time when you see a new head coach come to the club, somewhat of an overhaul happens with the focus of getting players in from their former club or other players to build the new project. Liverpool have been more than quiet on the transfer front, and I think that is something very deliberate on Liverpool's part. It has been said that Slot is big on the growth of players and working under some financial constraints. Slot calls out how important it is to work with the players on a daily basis to get the best out of them. He says the longer that the team plays together, the more the thing should improve. At Feyenoord, they had to sell 8 or 9 players almost every year, so with Liverpool mostly keeping their players year in and year out, I think Slot is going to use this time with the team to understand what he has and how it fits into the plan before they make any decisions on transfers. Transitioning to the squad, I want to focus on the players away at the international competitions, starting with the Copa America. We have Alexis Mac Allister, starting in the midfield for Argentina. Mac Allister has been outstanding for Argentina. With DePaul and Enzo playing more of a defensive role, this has allowed Mac Allister the freedom to move up the pitch and make some deeper runs, being a true box-to-box midfielder, creating some space, providing some assists. I think this shows the importance of having Mac Allister higher up the pitch and being a creator for Liverpool. Hopefully having a healthy Bajcetic and Endo will allow for this. Argentina won their semifinal match against Canada and now wait for the winner of Uruguay and Colombia in the finals. On the other side of the bracket, we have Alisson starting and goalkeeper for Brazil. Brazil has never looked like they found their way in this competition. Outside of the first match against Costa Rica, where Brazil only faced 2 shots and none were on target, Brazil faced an average of 13 shots a match while only getting about 10 on their own. Alisson has had to be on his toes, stood tall, made some great one-on-one Alisson fast and saved. So all in all, I think Alisson stayed consistent in form during these Copas. Continuing with Darwin Núñez. Darwin has been a different animal for Uruguay when it comes to his goal scoring. He scored in 7 straight matches, including 2 in his first 2 at the Copa this year. A little bit quieter against the United States and had a big hit or miss against Brazil, but his work rate, getting into space, creating chances, missing some chances, converting a few, all tracks with the Darwin we know and love. Up next for Darwin and Uruguay in the semifinals is Colombia. And speaking of Colombia, we've got Lucho, Mr. Luis Diaz. Diaz has been an absolute animal down the left side, terrorizing defenders with his dribbling, creating multiple chances, getting on the score sheet a few times. A happy, free-flowing Diaz, I think, excites every soccer fan. Once he gets going, you know he's going to have himself a day. Running at defenders, cutting inside for a shot, or his little stutter step and blown by defenders to set up a key pass has been seen more than a few times this competition. The semifinal matchup tonight between Uruguay and Colombia should be a great one. All in all, while watching the Copa America tournament for the Liverpool players, this has been a really good watch. I am excited to see how the remaining matches play out and who will come out on top. Looking at the Euro tournament, I will briefly touch on Joe Gomez, Gravenberch, Konate, and Jaros, as they have not made an appearance or an impact in this competition. You have to feel bad for Joe Gomez, as he played a huge role in Liverpool last season, largely at left back, and deserved a spot on this England squad. Shaw has not been fit enough to start, so Trippier has been moved over and given the nod at left back. This is something that I would love to have seen Joe Gomez in, as he played most of the matches last season at left back, and Trippier has been stationary at right back and was horrid for large parts of the season. Konate is another one that you have to feel for. He was the first choice center back pairing with Virgil before his injury with Liverpool, and he was the first choice center back for France. Konate did not see much playing time to finish up the season at Liverpool after his injury and lost his spot to Saliba with France, who, to be fair, has had an outstanding last 2 seasons and a great European competition. It's hard to argue that it's been the wrong call, given the run of matches France has had while only conceding goals in their semi-final matchup loss to Spain, but you just have to feel for Konate, as his chance has been gone due to injury. Jaros, I honestly don't know much about his situation with being loaned out last season and being a backup for his national team, but with Gravenberch in the Netherlands, you have to wonder why he's not seeing the pitch at all. Days before the start of the Euros, the Dutch declared De Jong and Koopmeiners out with injury, which in my opinion would be a prime opportunity for Gravenberch to get out there, but that's not the case. Schouten looks like this level has been a bit much for him. He's been very lackluster, nothing explosive. There's been no aha moments as to why he's out there on the pitch. Reiners has looked very good out there on the ball, but I feel Gravenberch would be a similar player for you. He's good on the ball, making runs through the defense while being able to hold off defenders, turns in tight spaces. You almost have to wonder if Gravenberch called up to the national team after being exiled a few times after pulling out of the international squad days after completing his transfer to Liverpool. It's part of the reason the Netherlands are not letting him contribute to the team. It almost seems as a bigger punishment of not letting him play than omitting him from the squad, that would let him leave on holiday and get back to Liverpool on time and train with the new manager. Alright, next up we have two brief cameos from country captains Andrew Robertson and Dominik Szoboszlai. Neither player did particularly well for their countries and did not make it out of group stage. Both Scotland and Hungary were in the same group. Scotland went winless, while Hungary's only win was a stoppage time +10 winner against Scotland. In my opinion, the biggest impact Szoboszlai made in the Euros was providing immediate aid to one of his severely injured teammates. Szoboszlai had made some comments leading up to the Euros about not getting some playing time near the end of the campaign for Liverpool and how it was actually good that kept him rested and healthy for the Euros, which didn't settle well for the Liverpool supporters. I was anxious to see how Szoboszlai would respond given those comments, being able to lead Hungary out as the youngest captain ever, but putting out the clunker in the tournament, hopefully he had a nice holiday rest, he comes back to Liverpool with the right mindset and ready to go. Now, the slaughter. Diogo Jota himself, another player in the competition who did not get the playing time I think he deserved. Portugal, in my opinion, are handcuffed with Ronaldo. Their previous manager sat Ronaldo at the World Cup and was later let go. Martinez comes in and not only starts Ronaldo, but plays him the full matches and even 120-minute matches. Taking no credit away from the player and career Ronaldo has had, but he's not a starter nor a 120-minute starter at the European level anymore. You could see the plan for Portugal was to feed Ronaldo the ball, and the only way to do that because of his movement now is to throw crosses into the box. The matches where Jota comes on, he makes instant impacts, tracking back, winning the ball, breaking line passes, line-breaking runs, draws a penalty, just as he always does as he's on the pitch for Liverpool. His time on the pitch for Portugal was quite short. He did not feature in the full 120-minute loss to France, nor did he feature in a few other matches. Just mind-boggling decisions to not get your best finisher out there at this point in their career. Next up, we have Trent Alexander-Arnold, another player who has not been given a real chance to shine in this tournament. Started the first two games of the group stage at midfield next to Rice. He created the most chances for England while not playing more than about 60 minutes a match. It was called a failed experiment. The failed experiment should be looked at where Harry Kane is playing a deeper role on average than Declan Rice, or Phil Foden completing more passes to Jordan Pickford than Harry Kane on the left wing. Those are failed experiments. Trent was also an unused sub a few times and then brought on with minutes remaining of the 120 in the quarterfinals against Switzerland. He was called upon to take the fifth and final PK. With ice in his veins, he recorded the hardest hit ball of the Euros at 78 miles per hour to put England in the semifinals against Netherlands. Currently, we're 55 minutes through the semifinal matchup against Netherlands, and Trent has not featured. Finally, we move on to the Netherlands players of Cody Gakpo and Virgil van Dijk. Starting with Cody Gakpo, who has been playing in this natural position on the left wing. Gakpo has been an absolute menace on the pitch. Tied for leading goal scorer of the Euros with 3, almost had a fourth in the winner that was ruled off for an own goal against Turkey. He also provided a fantastic assist. Gakpo playing the left wing has been a fun watch. His size and speed against the right backs has been a matchup for everyone who's tried to guard him so far. Sadly, Netherlands have been on their back foot the entire match as they've only seen 38% possession through the first 60 minutes, so Gakpo's involvement in this game has primarily been in a defensive role. Moving on to the captain, our center half, our number 4, Virgil van Dijk. You already know what I'm going to say about Virgil. Putting out typical performances of being a rock at the back, using his speed during one-on-ones, closing down attackers, being strong in the aerial game. Virgil has done everything you would expect him to do. He has gotten Netherlands to the semifinals against England. Let's see how the remaining minutes of the match play and if he can make an impact in the final. Alright all, I think that just about does it for the first episode of Slaughter Talk. If you're still tuned in to this point, I appreciate you sticking through this with me. I know the flow probably feels a bit wonky right now as I'm just getting started trying to get my feet wet while also navigating through the off season. I'm hoping once the season gets going, the flow of the show will become a bit smoother as we will be able to navigate through a normal match week. I envision most episodes by the start of the season will begin with my reflection of the previous match, breaking down the post-match interviews, discussing any injuries or team news, and then wrapping up the episodes with a look ahead to the next match. Thanks again for tuning in and giving my podcast your time. I look forward to touching base with you all next week after the Copa and Euro competitions have concluded, where we will spend a brief moment talking about the finals and then we will do a look ahead to the schedule release, the US preseason tour, and any other team news that comes up along the way. Thanks again, and have a great week.